Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada Om Shri Mahaganadipate Namo Namaha Om Bhagavate Shri Swami Narayana Namo Namaha Om Shri Lakshmi Narayana Namo Namaha Om Shri Nar Narayana Namo Namaha Om Shri Krishna Narayana Namo Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundaya Viche Sarva Mangala Mangalle Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanya Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostate Om Aksharaya Nama Parabrahmane Namaha Sadgurubhyo Namaha Om Gunatitavaksharam Brahma Bhagavan Purushottamah Jano Janandidam Satyam Muchyate Bhavabandhanat Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Shri Guru Stotram Akhandamangalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Agnanatimirandasya Agnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Deva Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to Daily Satsang. We are continuing our examination, exploration and contemplation on the Shri Vivek Chudamani, Shri Vachanamrutam and related scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, etc. on the question about the Atma. What is the Atma? Who we are? How is it to be actually realized? We are not interested in simply concepts and ideas and simply Sanskrit verses or very good sounding ideas, flowery language. We are interested in realization. So that's a whole different matter altogether. Realization, jisko hum anubhav kehte hai, wo alag hi baat hai. And one who is intent upon realization, the scriptures such as Vivek Chudamani, such as Vachanamrut, such as the bhashyas and other commentaries written, there is of course philosophical component, but there is a very applicable day-to-day component that is most important. Otherwise, one can intellectualize and philosophize all you want with different ideas and perspectives, and then one will get tired. In Vachanamrut, this is described as Mati Bhrami Javai. Maharaj has mentioned this point very carefully. Maharaj meaning Bhagavan Swaminarayan. So he is saying very, very clearly that when Adhyatmik Varta, when you start talking about the Atma and what is Mahamaya and what is Brahma and Parabrahma and what is Ishvara and what is this and that, all the Tattvagnan, the mind, meaning our intellect, he says in Gujarati, Bhrami Javai means it gets confused, it gets tired, it loses energy actually. It's very interesting. This is what happens, that if you start going into too much philosophy, you will get exhausted. Because it is like your brain is thinking, using so much power, which happens quite a bit in philosophical readings and writings. And I can show you, I have about 1,000 books in philosophy here, and they are very intense. And if you start to think about them, 2 or 3 pages will be enough for 2 or 3 hours, and you start going into it, it will use a lot of energy. It's a good thing, nothing wrong. But it doesn't mean that philosophical contemplation is necessarily going to bring realization. It could help in that direction, yes. For example, I'll give you an example. We have been discussing this word Vairagya. Do you know that there are hundreds and hundreds of dissertations written by doctoral students throughout the world on this concept of attachment and detachment and Vairagya? Hundreds of them are there, and I have many of them downloaded. You'll be surprised how many philosophy journals have discussed Shankaracharya's Advaita Vedanta. There are hundreds, thousands and thousands of articles there. Beautiful. It's all intellectual depth. Is it good? Yes. Is it helpful? It can be, yes. But it doesn't mean that one who is writing that or one who is reading it, like I could read, let's say, 5 or 10 articles on Vairagya in depth, or even massive dissertations on what is Vairagya. In fact, I was looking at some dissertations on Maya. It's intense. The history of the word Maya, where it came from. We won't go into all that here because we don't have time for that. But there are multiple dissertations written by students throughout the world on what is Maya. So it's not, and then they've gone into the history, the different acharyas, their interpretations, their viewpoints. There are very technical languages there. Is that good? Sure. Is it a way of advancing the intellectual probing capacity? Yes. Is it a way of further glorifying what is in the scriptures? Yes. Does it mean that if Sachin Karnik here reads 20 dissertations on what is Vairagya and Maya and Brahma Tattva and has understood them so well and can talk about that, does that mean that Sachin here has Vairagyam? No. Not necessarily. Maybe it will help. Maybe it will just remain as a good intellectual exercise to debate with, to write journals. People who are doing professional philosophy and religious studies in the universities, they are studying these things at a tremendous depth. It's not a joke. It's a fun, and I have the utmost respect and regard for them. But, and this is a big but, the question is there realization? So what is more important? To have a cookbook, 10,000 page cookbook with millions, with thousands of recipes, and not have one tomato in the refrigerator? This is the difference between Anubhav and this abstract understanding. That's why Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he is encouraging us, and so is Shankaracharya ji and all great sadhus and acharyas. They are speaking from Anubhav level. They don't want us to be stuck in, quote, the cookbooks. Cookbooks are good. It's good to have them. So what? You better go to the grocery store and buy some fruits and vegetables and dal and chawal and all kinds of things. Then you'll be able to make something out of it. Otherwise, it'll just be a piece of papers. It's not going to satisfy anybody's hunger. Doesn't matter how fascinated I may be with this one verse even. I could talk about this verse number 22 for the next 1 year. I'm sure about that. I have so much reference material here. I'm sure that I could talk about this one verse number 21 that we've been looking at for a long time. Is it a good thing to do? Sure. But that doesn't mean that I have realized that. Realization, kya hai? That is what I want to talk about today. For myself, not even for anybody else. If anybody hears this, Bhagwan ki ichha, that is up to God and that Atma. Sachin has nothing to do with that. This is only for my own development. I'm going to talk now here. And that is, Vairagya is my own vision. It has to be my own vision of where am I in the state of my own mind. I may understand what Shankaracharya is saying, what commentators are saying, Bhagwan Swaminarayan is saying, the great acharyas are saying, what Bhagavad Gita is. I may understand all that. For example, Sri Krishna Bhagwan is asked in the Gita very clearly by Arjuna. He says very clearly, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna. This mind is so chanchal. Man bahut chanchal hai. Of course it is. Of course it is. What does Sri Krishna say? What is the antidote to that problem of chanchalam? Problem in the sense, if you want to stabilize and gain wisdom, you've got to stabilize the mind. Obviously. हमारे जीवन में शांति और stability, जिसको स्थिरता कहते हैं, स्थिरता होनी ही चाहिए. We have to have stability. If we don't have stability, we cannot progress anywhere in life, in any dimension. So Bhagwan Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita has talked about this answer. Arjuna is asking, Chanchala hi mani Krishna. He says that my mind is too chanchal. And so is our mind, obviously. So what is Bhagwan Sri Krishna saying? He says, Abhyas and Vairagya. He gave two solutions. That you study the nature of the mind, Abhyas. And along with that will come Vairagya. It is a personal, direct, genuine, honest, unbiased view of oneself. View of the flux and the distortions and the various contortions of the mind in our life overall. For example, if I want to see my life clearly, who can see it as clearly as I can? First of all, if I'm not able to see my life clearly, then what is the point? I may be interested in helping others, seeing other people's life clearly. How foolish is that? When I cannot even see myself clearly, what is the point? For example, when Adi Shankaracharya, when he's talking about Tat Vairagyam, Jihasa, Darshana Shravanadibhihi, all this thing we've been talking about last couple of days. Is this in my life? I have to ask myself. What does it mean for me? I have to ask myself. I can sit in my temple, I can do my puja, archana, I can do so many things. And I have got to ask myself, my own mind, what this means for me. And that is where this internal exploration begins. Yes, dialogues, conversations, satsanga, back and forth exploration, all of that is also an intermediate step to looking at things directly yourself. In Vachanamrut, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he mentioned this thing, Garada Pratham number 20. He said that the individuals who are in satsang, still, if you have satsanga, you have an opportunity to see the Atma. Who are you? Pote potanu swarup nathi janto. He says that if you don't know who you are, that is the Agnyanima Atishay Agnani. That means the top level of Agnan, maximum level of Agyan kya hai? We don't know who we are. So that is the problem. And to solve that problem, it requires courage. इसमें हिम्मत होनी चाहिए. It requires courage to look at one's own entire life sequence and the content of the decisions and mind and memories and our relationships, and to see that clearly without the ego current coming and interfering in that. So all of this that Sachin is speaking is all implied in these verses. This sadhana is implied here. It's not that we can simply read Vivek Chudamani, listen to a couple of lectures on it, and we will realize that. We cannot realize anything that way. We have to internalize it and start looking inside. Okay, Shankaracharya is saying Vairagya. What is my understanding of Vairagya? Sachin has given some explanation. Other people have given others. And I told you, there are extensive discourses on these subjects. Just on these words, what exactly it means. The meaning is one thing. I may say, okay, I understand Vairagya, beyond Raga, Dvesha, and beyond, I've been mentioning that. I won't go and repeat that again. So I may have an intellectual understanding of what is Vairagya. What is the next step? What is the sadhana actually? So there's a couple of sadhanas. There's so many. One biggest sadhana is to directly perceive the state of Vairagya in the enlightened sages. Meaning what? There are so many enlightened sages in the history of the world, enlightened beings. They are also present today. If we can see that quality in them, this quality is in this person. For example, just take Raman Maharishi as an example, who is not here now, but he's passed away, the body passed away. If you look at his life, study his life, what do we find? We find so much Vairagya, but we find tremendous Ananda also. Vairagya and Ananda. So when we study the lives of enlightened sages, we find these qualities in them. Now, Sachin might say, okay, I find the quality of Vairagya in, let's say, 20 gurus. All right. I may even adore them. Wow, they're great. Muktanand Swami, Gopalanand Swami, Ramanand Swami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I can keep listing them one after another. Mirabai, Tulsidas Ji, whoever is known. So most of the people are unknown. Only few are known. I may glorify them. I might say, very nice, very beautiful, very nice, very nice. I may enjoy reading their lives, and all of that I can do. But you know what the human ego doesn't want to do? It doesn't want to be that. If I say, Sachin says, there's, Raman Maharishi, bahut bade sant. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, bahut bade sant. Vivekanand Swami, fantastic. Sajanand Swami Maharaj, incredible. You just keep going, keep naming them. Jesus, amazing. This person, amazing. That person, amazing. I'm interested in glorifying my ego, and I don't want to say ego, but my mind is interested in glorifying. Okay, that's the beginning, Mahima. But we stop there. In fact, those who are even doing that, they stop there. The next step, and which is the last step, is to take those qualities that you see internally and completely identify that that's me. That is where the mind is shocked. Mind gets totally shocked at that point. Shocked in the sense, not in some negative way. It cannot play its old game anymore. And that is the Guru Tattva directly acting on the mind. And if we don't do that, then we have sanskar, shubh sanskar for satsang, and it will go lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And person will keep getting connected with satsanga in different form, different religions, different traditions, because that one final step is not done. This is called Yoga Bhrashta Atma Bhagavad Gita. These things that Sachin is speaking, there are references for all this. I will not speak one sentence without the proper reference, and because it's a research-oriented approach. So this is not things that I'm making up in my mind. I can show you all the references, where it's coming from. So this idea is called Yoga Bhrashta. This is in the Bhagavad Gita. Yoga Bhrashta means what? Let's say Sachin here tries and does some sadhana and is making some progress, but has not completely internalized the Brahma Vidya because of my ego, my vasanas, my own ahankar, whatever the XYZ it is. So then what will happen when the body goes away? Rebirth will happen. But Sri Krishna Bhagavan has given the guarantee that whatever progress you've made, it'll remain with you. You will not fall back. That will not be taken away. So whatever progress, and then you continue from that point further. And so God creates the circumstances for the jiva through another family, through another life, where that progression can continue. Like for example, I know from my own life, why am I so interested in all this? Because this has been going on for many lifetimes, but something is missing somewhere. That's why the rebirth has happened. Gunatitanand Swami, in Swamini Vato, he mentions so clearly that if we had this realization, then you would not even take on a body. Body would not even be there. The reason that body is there because we don't have the realization. That's why we are born. But the body is also given as an opportunity to realize. You see, so the realization of the Atma and the Paramatma completely takes us from the cycle of birth and death, frees us from all the pains and sufferings and sukh and dukh cycles of the bodies. But the fact is, in the human body, right now, without delay, to bring it directly inside, Vairagyam, that's me. Wow, really? Have we ever looked in the mirror and said, I have real Vairagya? We'll be scared to even say that. My God, I know, let me comb my hair and let me put some makeup and lipstick and make sure that my, eyebrows are trimmed and all that. That is the thing that we're interested in. But that's okay. We should have to do that also. But to look in the mirror and say, I have Vairagya. That looking in the mirror, that is the whole idea of the scriptures and the great sages. When we have an image of Adi Jagat Guru Shankaracharya, we see him with the stick and in the asana, and he's got all that nice dress. Can we say that that's me? Try it and see. See what happens. This is the experiential aspect of spirituality, and the only thing that really matters. If we say that Bhagwan Shiv, yes, Bhagwan Shiv is there. Okay, but that's me. I am that. Tattvamasi. That Aksharam Aham. I am the Akshara Brahma. And then Bhagwan ke jo das hai, wo jo bhakti bhav, that bhakti like Hanumanji is total dasatva bhav. That's me. Take any quality and bring it that resonate the mind with that quality through the Guru, through the scriptures, and say that's me. And see the miracle that happens. J. Krishnamurti, in his language, he used the expression, the miracle of attention. That is a miracle. That is the most extraordinary journey. It is an internal journey. That's why Sri Krishna is saying, Ekaki yatachita atma aparigraha nirasha. Aloneness. Even in the Gospel of John, and I'll give the biblical references, which I have not given too many. I'm going to start giving those also pretty soon. What they are. It's amazing what is in the Bible. And there's a lot of stuff in there about aloneness with God. Being connected with the words of God. Being connected, like in the Christianity, with the manifestation of Jesus. That is the divinity manifested right in human form. This concept is there in our scriptures, in the Indian scriptures also. जिसको हम अवतार कहते हैं, that's all, or बड़े संत कहते हैं, or सिद्ध पुरुष कहते हैं, different words are there. There is a great opening and great joy in aloneness. एकांत में जो सुख है, वो किसी भी बात में नहीं है. But human beings do not know how to even move into that, because we are so inflicted with being with so many other people all the time that we feel so lonely and emotionally hurt when people are not around us, when we don't know what is aloneness. Guru Dattatreya talked about this also. He was all these sages who roam. These are in the scriptures, but this can be our life also. We can be in the grahastha ashram and we can be alone. There are moments of aloneness and interaction. Interaction without reaction with love is karma yoga actually. And that is vairagya also. These things are not separate from each other. But aloneness is ekant. It's you and all the galaxies, all the nature. And everything is within me because it is in my perception. That is a glorious living. And that is what is meant by Vairagyam. One of the meanings, even Sachin has not even touched the surface of this real meaning. Iska jo depth hai of this verse, I have not even touched 1% of this yet. That's why I tell you, it take me a whole year to open the whole thing, and it still won't be open. Vairagya is not any ordinary thing. It is a great state of aloneness. और इसमें ज्ञान संपूर्ण भी होता है. It's like two sides of the coin. Jnana और vairagya are two sides of the same coin. They are like two wings of the bird. And in Vachanamrut Bhagwan, in Vedas, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he mentioned, just as a moth which has two wings, it goes towards the flame and dies inside there. He says similarly, ज्ञान और वैराग्य ये मुमुक्षु की दो पाख है. In Gujarati, it mumukshu, same word is used in Vedas, because Vedas is another extension of the same Vedantic ideas. That the mumukshu, one who is wanting liberation, not the other people are already burned in the sansar. That's a whole different matter. So Vishaya Vasana, they're learning after that, they're crushed again and again. We're not talking about that group of people. We're talking about the group of people that are mumukshus, who want moksha, who are wanting liberation. And they may have, to some extent, jnana and vairagya. And jnana and vairagya is totally shattered in the mumukshu. But just as the moth runs towards that flame and it dies inside there, similarly, the Jnana and Vairagya, whatever extent it may have been developed, because the mumukshu is not in mukta yet, it has not gone to its total development, the vortex of the sansar, the vishayas, the vasanas, the attractions of the world, and all these things will pull the mumukshu away from Jnana and Vairagya, and it will destroy Jnana and Vairagya. That is a real wealth. This is a wealth. It is Shata Sampattihi. Shankaracharya ji is saying, this is your wealth. Vairagya is a wealth. Have you ever thought about that as wealth? Have you ever thought about Jnana as wealth? It is our internal wealth. And that Vairagya is such that one is harnessing every moments of experience and back into stability, back into the Atma. The experience of the world is integrated into the Atma. It is not split from the Atma. This is the whole point of the Pratyabhigna Hridayam. The scripture known as Pratyabhigna Hridayam, which we will talk about more, it has to do with this whole point, that you are not in any which way separating the external experience from the Atma. You are recognizing that all experience is due to the Atma. And you're able to take the waves in the mind of those experiences and connect them back into the Atma. That is called this drashta drishya vivek. Vivek means what? You are able to see the waves of experience, and not be caught in them, but to integrate the energy in the wave back into the Atma. That is called Jnana Shakti. So the reintegration of the energy that is going into the waves, even after experiencing those waves, and back into its natural natural internal harnessing state, that is that state. Jnana Shakti Samarudha Tattvamala Vibhushitaha. So this is an internal worship. Every scripture, every line, every word is an internal phenomena. It's an internal process that is talked about in relation to all of external experience. So the external experience is integrated inside through the lens of the scriptures and purified. That energy goes right back into the purified state. And then that pure energy is called Ojas. That energy, and this is in the Gita also, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, I am the Ojas. The Ojas is the divine power that is stored in the system. And that power, that divinity, that power that is stored inside our mind, inside our body, is used for further sadhana, for further development, for further bhakti. This is the whole point Bhagavan Swaminarayan mentioned again and again, that dharma, jnana and vairagya are foundational to the development of bhakti. It is a protection of bhakti. It is the enhancer of bhakti. It's like how we take those enhancement pills, right? We take those vitamin pills, enhance your metabolism, enhance your workouts, take this special vitamins and take the special protein drinks and all that. Why do we do that? People who, because they are involved in developing their body and running longer periods of time. It aids the activity you have chosen to do. Bhakti as a sadhana is an activity of the mind and emotions, of thought and emotion both. And there's so many. We talked about bhakti before. We'll talk about it more again as we move along. The 9 forms of devotion and so many other forms are there also. Bhakti is so intense because it has to have the foundation of vairagya and jnana and dharma. If it doesn't have that bhakti will not last. In fact, what will happen, that activated emotion will swing right back into Vishaya Asakti, which has happened to a lot of people in the history of Sanatana Dharma and throughout the world. You see also so many people in these churches and synagogues and temples, and people are dancing and they're doing all kinds of things, and you sometimes will feel, even in the Hindu temple, some people are so devoted to like Ganeshji and Shivaji and different deities. They're so intense. You will feel that they have realized God. But once they go home and you see the chaos that goes on over there, you say, my God, that is because there is lack of vairagya and jnana. They have bhakti for that time, and much of that bhakti could be reactionary. You see, so it's good though. We don't want to judge anybody. I'm not trying to do that. But the bhakti, actual bhakti, is not a reaction. It's okay. It's nothing wrong. It's good to do. Actual bhakti doesn't have any kind of ego distortion inside it. And remember, Sachin is speaking only for Sachin. This is not an attempt to look at anybody's deficiency or anything like that. But we want to highlight the things as they are. So, same people who are so intense in devotion, you find out what they're doing in their private life, find out what they're doing in other areas of their life, and you will say that all they're doing is swinging back and forth because they don't have vairagya. Vairagya is not some physical object. It's not some certificate somebody's going to give Sachin that, okay, after 5 years of this much sadhana and this much study and this much seva and whatever you're doing, that somebody's going to put some stamp on my forehead and said, now you have vairagya. It's not going to be like that. It's your own realization if there's vairagya or not. Don't need anybody else to say anything. People can say, they might say, they might not say. Who cares? What difference does it make? तुल्य निंदा स्तुतिर मौनी संतुष्ट येन केनचित भगवद गीता. कभी भी जीवन में हमारी स्तुति होती है, कभी भी निंदा होती है. तुल्य भाव, equanimity. तुल्य निंदा स्तुतिर मौनी, that is also vairagya. Vairagya is not simply like you're just, we have these images like you're just sitting in dhyan and yeah, okay, वो भी एक बात है. We have not talked about dhyan that much. That is there. That is a further development in meditation. But before we get to any of those kinds of further sadhana, that may be necessary in people's lives. Actual vairagya is living with equanimity, stita pragnata, in every situation. Now, Sachin might talk about that. I'm talking about it because I need to realize that. I don't know if I've 100% realized that. Only when the situations come about do I genuinely know where I stand. But so many times on spiritual path, we are concerned about what other people are thinking about us. How other people are judging us. So we want to portray, oh no, I have this. It happens all the time. Because somebody's watching other people. It happens in groups particularly. In satsang groups and all that. So when you're in a group of people, you're probably going to follow things properly. If you go to an ashram or stay for 1 week or 2 weeks, or you go to some place, you have to follow their rules. And at that time, everybody seems very divine. And there is divinity there. In satsang, we say many times when people are sitting in the satsang hall, everybody is Brahmarup, everybody is divine, sab divya hai. Yes, true. There's a vision that should be there. But the reality of life is when you're alone. That is when the whole game of spirituality is played. In aloneness. When you are alone, what are you doing at that time? That is the barometer and the only barometer of spirituality with regards to your connection with God. Because it is only in that aloneness can there be actual devotion when nobody's looking, nobody's thinking of us, nobody knows even what we're doing. It is called the anonymity. It is how can I describe it? It is where one is not performing spiritual practice in connection to what somebody else is seeing or viewing about us. That is genuine adhyatmic practice. It has nothing to do with what somebody else is thinking or seeing or whatnot. And when that kind of evolution occurs, that I am interested in simply connecting with the Paramatma, and with tremendous love for satsang, sages, temples, everything, such evolved beings, they never broadcast their evolution. Look how great I am. Look, no. That they may be doing seva in different ways, whatever it is. Okay, that's okay. Others, by seeing them, they say that there's something special there. The sun doesn't say, we said it many times, sun doesn't say, look how bright I am. So the kuch nahi bolta, just Surya Narayan. He doesn't say anything to anybody. People are sometimes they can curse the sun or throw the dust at the sun or throw mud at the sun. You can throw anything at the sun, it's going to fall on the person throwing it only. Nothing is going to touch the sun. One who has this type of evolution, Jnana and Vairagya, and at the highest level, Shankaracharya, I'm going to cover that tomorrow, because I have not even touched the subject. Really, what this means is Dehadi Brahma Pariyante. We talked a little bit about it. Iska bahut adhyatmik rahasya hai. The actual state of evolution of the sadhaka, the mumukshu, the bhakta, when the Vairagya is established here, the extraordinary things begin to open up. And then Shankaracharya is giving the guidance here that they are also anitya, all the way up to the Brahma Tattva. So how that happens, why that happens, what is Archi Marg, what is Vachanamrut saying about this in terms of Garada number 21 Vachanamrut. There's so much to be said about this. So we'll cover that carefully, because I do want to get into that and at least spend 1 or 2 days on the metaphysics of Vairagya. How intense and how interesting, to what level of Vairagya that is talked about here. That most extraordinary things are coming and appearing in your purview, and you are not not touched by them. Can you imagine that? Can we imagine that in our house right now, let's say somebody brings, a $1 million diamond and says, this is yours. Literally, $1 million diamond, amazing diamond. Let's say, what is Vairagya in that? Yes, you recognize it relatively for its value in the world. What does Bhagavad Gita say? Samadoshtashma kanchanaha. Take dust in one hand, put the diamond in the other hand. And with Brahma Vidya, holding the Brahma Vidya, holding the Vairagya with him, seeing clearly that both are parts of the earth, they are going to remain here. My attraction and repulsion, I'm beyond. If you're beyond that, now one of the best things, of course, it's in the material world, you have to live by the rules of the material world because it's a trigunatmika maya. So you're not going to treat the $1 million diamond as dust, but internally, you know that it is just coal in different form. And by knowing that, you are going to keep it safe and all that. But internally, you will not get drawn towards that $1 million diamond. Internally, you will have vairagya, and the power, the financial power that the $1 million diamond might have, you may use in some other way for benefit, etc. That's a relative question. But internally, the equal vision, sama, loshtashma kanchanaha, samatva, equal, it's just a vision. It's not that you're going to put the diamond and treat it as dirt. No. It is a vision. That is vairagya. That is jnana. Jnana and vairagya is not something physical. I mean, show me vairagya physically. You cannot show somebody vairagya physically. How do you show desire? The desire has its manifestations physically. But vairagya by itself, in its real sense, is what is talked about by Adi Jagadguru Shankaracharya ji. And he's given absolutely the top definition here. Topmost definition. That everything from this body all the way up to the Brahmaji is anitya. First of all, is that true? Can we hold that? We have, and to realize if that is true, we have to try to awaken that vairagya and see what it actually is. Otherwise, I can say, read this verse and say, oh, this is a very cool idea. This is interesting. Let's do some more research about what is Brahmalok and Satyalok and this lok and what the scriptures say, and create a whole dissertation on that. Create a 50-page document on that. Create 1,000 slides on that. So what? That's okay. But that's just the beginning. Actually sitting in nature, sitting in the temple, sitting at home, sitting in the car, being with friends, being in any situation, and internalizing vairagya as it is, and bringing that about, living in that way. Now one begins to experientially see the joy of vairagya, the ananda that is in vairagya, the divinity that is in vairagya, the importance of vairagya as a support to bhakti. Ek bijani apeksha nu, Vachanamrut Bhagwan Swami said, Dharma, Gnan, Vairagya, Bhakti, they're interconnected, interdependent. They're interlinked together. So the actual realization is what we're looking. So we'll stop this here today. Tomorrow I want to go further into some of the metaphysics of this, just for our understanding of it, and then kind of go from there. All right, thank you.